So she is the OG. She is the first person who said, yes, I will help you in your permanent makeup quest. She is the first person who said, you can watch me solder a needle together. She is the first person who said color theory is actually really, really mad important. And I'm only going to teach it live, even if that means sitting on a webinar camera for 8 hours so that I can answer questions in person. You guys, live from Las Vegas, I am so proud to bring you Teryn Darling.
Hello.
Hello, my friend.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
So, Teryn, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. We've
Suddenly,
been
it
hanging
just
out a
started.
lot lately, Victoria.
I know, lucky me.
Yeah, I like it. I'm getting to know you and I like it.
We're best friends now, basically. Well, I guess I'm
Yeah.
your second bestie because I know who your best friend is, and it's not me.
Who's my best friend?
Katie Schofield.
I left her a very lovey-dovey Instagram voicemail last night.
Oh, Les, nice, spicy.
Yeah, and I told her a cute little bird like dropped me a little nugget of info. So, about the LA protein. So
Uh,
yeah, so anyway.
you guys, if you didn't know, which I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the intro, but actually this was Teryn's idea. She told me that I should have guests on my podcast, and then she volunteered to be the first one.
Did I volunteer? I thought I just gave you like, a little advice. I didn't.
No, I can't ever prove it because your file is corrupted, but you
Oh,
said,
yeah, that's true.
I'd
That's
love to come
true.
on your podcast. And
That's
I said, I've
true.
never had any guests.
Yeah, yeah, that file mysteriously ended up corrupted.
So, Teryn Marie, darling, you said back east. You're originally from Maine, right?
I am from Maine. Yeah, yeah, from Maine.
And how did you end up in Las Vegas?
Well, I followed, my first love, my first girlfriend. Really. So, but leading up to, that, I mean, I always dreamed of a big life. I wanted a life that was bigger than myself, bigger than how I saw life being lived in Maine. I always dreamed of that, Victoria, and so when my first girlfriend's sister lived out in Las Vegas and my girlfriend wanted to go, I think we were only together about 6 months at the time, that first love. And it was my first girlfriend.
How old were you at
Um,
this point?
oh my God. Well, that's not relevant.
It's a
But
huge thing to move across the country, you know?
it is a big thing. Her sister was here and already had an apartment. So, we came out together and Las Vegas sounded very exciting to me. I mean, and it was only supposed to be a pit stop. I really wanted to go to LA
Oh,
and, get into the arts there. Yeah, do something really creative there. But I ended up making really good friends here and they're still my friends today, like all these years later. So built a really good community here around me. So
did
here I
she
am.
move? Did she move back to Maine?
And no, she stayed right out here until she passed away. She passed away only about 3 years ago, unexpectedly in her sleep at a really young age. So, but we had stayed in contact, even though, I mean, I think we were out here maybe 2 years and we broke up. We were young and foolish and, a whole new crop of women, Victoria. you know,
Showgirls, honey.
yeah, yeah. And so, so it didn't last, but we did stay friends and stay in contact right up until she passed away. So
Such a shame. What was
it
life
is a
like back in
shame.
Maine?
Life's a little bit slower in Maine, a little bit more, I guess, simplistic, I guess in a way, if you will. Um I was just back there in June, me and Kat, and we were coming back from hanging out with my cousins, and it was like 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, mind you, and we were super hungry, and there wasn't a pizza joint, not a nothing, not a grocery store, not a nothing open, and like 9 o'clock at night. And so in Vegas, everything's 24/7, so we can go get
Right.
pizza at 3 in the morning. Yeah. So things shut down. People are in their homes a little bit earlier. It's coastal. I grew up in Maine on the Maine can be very coastal and beach, or it can be northern and woods and a little more rural and farming. So I grew up in the city part of Maine where it's super coastal. So yeah, I would just say a little bit slower, little things shut down a little bit earlier. Beautiful. People are warm and friendly. I love it. I love it. I feel like I got two homes, Vegas and
Yeah.
Maine. Yeah.
Bi-coastal with only one coast.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
dad still lives there, right? Danny
He
is his name?
does. Yeah. Yeah. Dan Darling. Yeah. How do you know that? What are you doing? Did you do a little background research on me?
I called a cop that I used to sleep with and I had him look you up.
Ah, that's funny. I might have slept with the same, I might could have slept with the same cop. I don't know. Was it a woman? Was it a female cop?
Yes. How did you know?
Well, okay, okay.
No, I'm just
That's
joking.
funny.
But
Yeah, Dan Darling.
I did find out one other thing, and it's something you and I have in common.
Okay.
You like to garden.
I do like to garden.
I
Very
feel like
much
not that
so.
many people know this about you.
Yeah, no, I do. I love to garden, and I love planting flowers and playing with my flowers and pruning them and tending to all my rose bushes. I have a pretty good lot size for, especially for Vegas. It's a third acre. So it's got lots of like palm trees and rose bushes and plants and this and that. And I actually have a garden. And so I love it. I'm really a big nerd, to be quite honest with you. I like to be home when I'm not traveling and working, and I like to be home. I like to garden. I do a lot of laundry, a lot of ironing. I'm really a big nerd, Victoria.
I like that.
Yeah.
When did you start gardening? I started this summer, so I'm super into it.
I started when I got my first house out here in Vegas, many, many, many years ago. So, you get your first house, you just can't believe you accomplished that. What a goal, right? For any
Yeah.
human. So, and I had to work so hard, for it. And I wasn't quite into PMU yet at that point.
Oh, what had
And
you been doing before?
I was a cocktail waitress.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes, I was on the
With the
strip.
skirts?
Yeah, 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 girl, with the skirt, with the heels, with everything. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
There was a learning curve to the heels and the skirt and the whole 9 yards. But believe you me, there was a transition period that was a little rough on me. But all the cocktail waitresses just, they found it adorable, and they helped me out. They gave me some pointers on how to walk in heels, and they gave me some pointers with my makeup and all that good stuff. So
It's not a joke though. Like that's a hard job. Serving in heels is hard.
yeah, it is hard. It is
Yeah.
really, really hard. I mean, thank God you're
It's
on
also
carpet, because all the casinos are
common.
carpeted. Yeah, so walking on carpet makes things, a lot better. But when you're a tomboy and you're in sneakers and boots all your life, and then you got to put on a pair of heels, and look cute doing it, look smooth and cute doing it. It was a little rough at first, but I did get it, and I ended up a really good cocktail waitress. So yeah, I got my first home, and I just started really studying gardening and soil and this and that and how to tend to plants. And I
Isn't
found
that
it,
so?
I find it to be very soothing, don't you? I get really
Yes.
bad anxiety. I have, recycling thoughts. I've been open about this in the past, the recycling thoughts and a mind that can adrift and get a little crazy. So I find it very, very healing, very soothing, very meditative, very peaceful. It's just it's very calming and healing for me. So I really enjoy it.
Me too. Do you keep plants at the shop?
No, no plants at the shop. So
That's
hey,
nice.
are we being like is this just audio? Or is this video too?
No, it's video too, yeah.
Oh, it's video too. Okay. All right. Gotcha. 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 I put on, my shirt for you and everything. I changed. Yeah, I changed and everything.
I think living in Las Vegas, you've probably seen your fair share of like crazy stuff, whether it's crime or otherwise, just crazy stuff. But you
Yes.
were originally from a small town in Maine where they close pizza even at by like 8 a.m., 8 p.m. So
Yeah. Yeah.
when you moved there, were you a little bit in shell shock? I mean, a lifestyle change even, skirt wearing, high heel wearing, cocktail waitress.
No, I wasn't in shock, and I was in awe. Maybe in awe is the best word. I wasn't shell shocked. I transitioned pretty quick. I missed my family. I hit the ground running. I think, we landed at 1 in the morning, and we went into one of the casinos and gambled and had breakfast at 7 a.m. and didn't sleep for I hit the road running. I think I was in awe. I was in awe. I was in awe at finally I was in a city with diversity, and which felt really comfortable and wonderful to me, because in Maine, especially back then, there wasn't a lot of diversity. And so coming to a city where there was lots of diversity and there was a larger gay scene and there was a lot of different cultures and skin colors here, I was in awe with it all, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. I knew I belonged in a city with all the diverse culture and people. So that felt good to me right away. So yeah, so definitely in awe. I'm still in awe with this city.
You said something to me on one of our podcasts that was
Okay.
just kind of like an aside, just like a, I don't even know if you realized that you said it, but I was wondering what you meant by it. I was talking to you about being incredibly inclusive and welcoming in the permanent makeup community because really you were the first person who looked at this new wave of microbladers and everything and said, yeah, let's figure this out together. Come on in, where other people
Mhm.
kind of said no. And you said, I guess I can thank my dad for that, but I've always been really inclusive. What did that
Mhm. Well, so it goes back, it does definitely go back to my dad. Maine was not a very diverse place. It wasn't a diversity. It was predominantly Caucasian. So especially when my dad, was growing up.
Yeah.
But when my dad was about 8 years old, a black family moved in to on his street, right across the street. And my nana, my dad, and the whole family, they ended up the best of friends. And actually, the gentleman, Jimmy Johnson, who my dad was really good friends with, they were friends right up until Jimmy died. And so early on, whereas I think a lot of people were not introduced to diversity or people of different races, I was. And then my dad, of course, went into the army, and my dad has always been really liberal and with his thinking, like socially and and very inclusive. And he raised us that way. He raised us that way. He would make us watch the news and he would make us watch the world news because
Oh,
he wanted his children to see the United States as it was as a whole, with all the diversity, with culture and race and all these things, rather than just being exposed to what was in Maine at the time. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, even with my sexuality, Victoria, even though, back then it really wasn't okay to be gay, I'm my dad's only daughter. Um, coming out to him, it 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 was scary. Don't get me wrong. I think every gay person or a lot of gay people are scared to come out, even if their parents are loving. No, but he made me feel really super comfortable about it. So did my mom. My mom's this way too. So I guess I was just really lucky to be born in a family that exposed us to that and talked to us about race and religion um and all these, all these important what do I want to call them? These important,
Facets of human life.
yeah, yes, yeah, from a really young age. And then when I moved to Vegas, it's all here, right
Yeah.
in front
You
of
were
me,
prepared
all
for it.
around me. I was aware of it, but I had never been really exposed to it.
You were exposed to more, so you were welcoming and accepting of more. I think that that has carried throughout your career as well, because that's the first thing that people who have been in the industry as long as I have, under 15 years, that's the first thing that we say when we think of Teryn Darling is like, oh, she was the first person who taught me. She's the first person who actually had like a course that I understood that was worth something, not just trying to sell me a class or whatever, but like real education. And she was an OG and she was so welcoming. That's the first thing people say about you is just how welcoming you were. And
Uh,
I guess that's why you had an open mind when microblading came around, when so many people didn't.
yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, that's really wonderful to hear, and it feels really good. So I thank you for sharing that with me, and I hope that's how people feel with me, Victoria. I hope that's, if nothing else, when I'm out of when I'm done this industry, I think when you get to where I'm at in my career, 22 years, you start thinking about your legacy, right? Like
Yeah.
what do you how do you really want this industry to feel about you? And most importantly, it was how I treated everybody. especially when they did nothing for me, could do nothing for me,
Right.
especially those how did I treat them? And I think besides being raised as super open-minded, in a family that was super open-minded, I'm full of flaws. Full of flaws. I just am. And I don't want to be judged. I just don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
And so therefore I judge no one. I've just never been a judgmental person. I want people to accept me with all my flaws and all my shit. And love me and respect me and I extend that, to people and the industry as a whole.
It comes across that way. Thinking of those 22 years that you've been doing permanent makeup,
Yeah.
take me all the way to Eddie's shop. How did you end up there?
Eddie. Okay, so Eddie Lynn, um, he's God, he started tattooing, when he was like 16 years old and started his own shop in a really bad, like not a great part of town, this tiny little shop. And what new to Vegas, wanted a tattoo, went to Eddie's shop, not knowing who he was, and got a tattoo and got a couple more little tattoos. And I really liked him a lot. I really liked him a lot. We really vibed. We talked a lot. And and then I started doing like permanent makeup. Well, in the meantime, I'm sending him a lot of people, right? Like
Yeah.
anybody that wanted a tattoo, you got to go to Eddie Lynn over at the Skin Factory. He's great, blah, 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 blah. So, I get
The
into
Skin
permanent make.
Factory, by the way, sounds like a crime documentary.
Yes, yes, the Skin Factory. That's the name of his business. He has two locations here, and he has a location in Maui, right on Front Street. And unfortunately,
Oh,
it burnt. He lost his business with the fire in Lahaina. So, but he's doing good, and hopefully he rebuilds out there. But he still has two shops here. But anyway, make a long story short, started doing permanent makeup. Not really happy, the first maybe year or so, seeing your eyebrows not healing the right color. I mean, I'm using a color that looks brown in the bottle, but a year later they're orange or they're red, and it's
yeah.
freaking me out. And I'm not really understanding why, because there's really no color theory back then. There's no one to explain to me why.
Well, we just
Um, yeah, I mean, right, And so I decided I was going to get into body tattooing because you don't really have to deal with that. And
Mhm.
so drove into Eddie's shop and I asked him if he'd apprentice me, and he said yeah. And so I spent about a little over 18 months at his shop apprenticing with him. And at the time he had a female apprentice in there too, but one in particular that I really gravitated towards and felt close to. And she was about 6 months ahead of me, and she was super talented. And there were other, artists in there and whatnot. So it was kind of like a community of artists in there and I got to learn from all of them. And Eddie was a little old school. He made all his own needles. And so that's how all his apprentice started, including myself. Like I wasn't able to tattoo anything. Um, I had to, you're kind of the grunt of the shop. I
Right.
had to make all his needles. I had to kind of look in his book and see what he was doing. Was it portraits? Was it this? Was it that? And sit down and solder and make all his needles for the whole week. And that got me really super interested in needles. And that's when I learned, oh my gosh, there's this other whole array of needles out there that are not being taught in PMU. Back then in permanent makeup, it was the 3 and the 5 round liner, and that was like it. That's all that was really being used or talked about or taught. But Eddie exposed me to shaders and mags, a single needle. I mean, all kinds of different needles. And he moved a different way, Victoria, when our tattoo artists were moving a different way than what I was taught to move to implant pigment. And so I started kind of moving closer to the way they moved. And when I started changing up my needles and working more like a body tattoo artist for my permanent makeup work, immediately I noticed, you know, my results were better. My results were better. I was doing less touch up work. Um, and then I found LI Pigments. And
How did that come to be?
well, because I was bitching about the eyebrow colors turning color. I was really bitching about it. And I'm like, man, if this is just the way it is, because there was quite a few people back then said, well, that's the way it is. And I'm like, well, why? Why is this the way it is? I mean, someone needs to make me understand this because this doesn't happen with body tattoo pigments. I tattoo in red and that shit's red.
Right.
I didn't understand it, Victoria. And I got to a point where this is not okay. And if this is going to happen, then I cannot do permanent makeup because I can't face these clients. It's humiliating and I can't face these clients. And so it was actually Marjorie Grimm. And one day she's like, I'm going to send you a bottle of LI Pigments. And I think this is going to change how you feel about permanent makeup. And she sent me a bottle of hazelnut. And I started using it, and probably for 2 years, it's all I would do was hazelnut.
Hazelnut?
Yes, because I wanted to, and I was monitoring it. I wanted to make sure age. And in the meantime, Margie had a small group of people using LI, and we were on an email chain where we were looking at each other's healed work, and I was not seeing color changes. They were healing and aging very, very stable. So I started introducing more of the LI colors until I ended up with about 7 or 8 colors. And then that was my color choice. They were reliable, they were stable, they did not turn color on me, and that was my pigment choice. I just knew that was going to be my pigments, probably the rest of my career, and that's what happened,
How
So
did you get to know their pigment line so in depth? How did you start working with them?
um well, they had a distributor at the time, and I think maybe she was, getting a little bit older, and they needed a new Margie mentioned they needed a new distributor. And by then I had been using LI 6 years,
Mhm.
by 6 years. And I had never met LI or anybody there. And then LI reached out to me, and Margie gave me a heads up that they probably that they may be like, she threw my hat, you know, in Darlene's ear. And so Darlene called me one day, and I said no at first. I declined the offer. I did not want to be a distributor.
Really?
And the reason I didn't and said no at first was because I was a prolific trainer at that time. I was traveling all over the United States. People were coming to my little room, and I was training, 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 training. Back then,
Well,
you
how
did
did that
not.
start?
It just started with someone emailing. It started with a
Mm,
conference, and I brought my hard copy portfolio, like a photo album,
yeah.
yeah. And people was looking at my work, and it started with one email: can you come train with me? And then just she enjoyed my training, she told someone, and it just I turned into a trainer, and a very busy trainer for years. But as a trainer, I used LI. I recommended LI. And I felt that if I became and I felt if I became a distributor for a trainer, it was no longer going to feel or appear genuine or authentic, that I truly believed in these pigments. I felt it was going to look like I was trying to make a buck. And
Katie
that didn't,
Schofield. Katie
huh?
Schofield just said this.
Oh, seriously?
He just said this. That's so funny. Someone else approached Katie Schofield to be on their team or whatever for their pigments. And she said, I could train with their colors because that's what their idea is, right? She's a big trainer in the UK and they wanted her
Hmm.
to put them in their kits, whatever. She said, I could do that. And honestly, they're nice pigments, but I would feel like I was doing it just for the money. And honestly, it doesn't feel like an organic, pardon the pun on organics and inorganics, but it doesn't feel like an organic move because that's not the colors that I use. And everyone
Yeah.
knows that if they watch I only use LI. So it feels like it's just a money grab. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel genuine.
Yeah. And there's a lot
So
of
that
money grabbers
perception
out.
exists. It's not just you.
Yeah. And my situation was the same in that I didn't want my authenticity
Yeah.
uh being questioned. They were pigments I was using at 6 years by that point, would never use another pigment. I believed in them, but if I started selling them and making money off them, new students coming to train with me, are they still going to see me as authentic, or are they going to think that I'm talking about LI and teaching with LI and trying to get them on out now because I want to make $1? I knew all the students prior to that, would not change their opinion, and they were actually, a lot of my prior students, before LI, once LI asked me, they were really happy for me. They really wanted me to do it. And I expressed my concerns to a lot of people because I was really
Yeah.
super concerned about it. And then just with with conversations with people in the industry, and encouragement, that no one knew this line better, that I would be a great representation for them and a great trainer for them. I decided to do it. I did decide to do it, and I did it. And
Thank
and here
God
I
you did
am.
it. Thank God
Yeah,
you did.
yeah. So
So if we're looking back 22 years ago, all the way to today, what is something that you would change?
something I would change. I think I would make my moves quicker.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'd make my moves quicker.
What did you wait
I
too long for?
um Lots of things. Lots of things. Yeah, lots of things. Um and I wouldn't be, and I would, oh man, I don't know if I would change that. I'm a perfectionist, and once I decide to move forward, it takes me too long because it has to be at such a high level. um but I take too long to make decisions, that 100%. So starting my store, look at being a distributor for LI. I said no at first, and then I let a gap go by,
Yeah.
and then they called me again, and then I talked to Kat, and we finally decided to do it. Launching the store, that was my dream, was to have a store, because all the stores in permanent makeup at that time, now, come on. I mean, they were selling, permanent makeup, digital machines that were $20,000, and needles that
Oh, that was a
were
nightmare.
were $25, and just these little, gadget type things. And I was using none of those supplies. I was using machines made by tattoo manufacturers. I was using tattoo needles. Do you know what I mean? So, um, creating the store, lots of things, lots of things. The color theory webinar, right? That
Oh,
was
that
the
was such a
first.
game changer,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. And and I didn't move quick on that because I was told no one would sit for hours on a computer and watch you talk about color theory. I was told that by
You
a
did it
lot of
twice.
people, even people close to me in the industry. No one, Teryn, that is a one person said this. That's a ridiculous idea, Teryn. No one will sit in front of a computer and watch you talk about color theory for 6 to 8 hours. No one. And that thought got in my mind and replayed and replayed and replayed and replayed. And I half bought into it, Victoria. And I pace, I pace like in my house, I pace and I think and I think and I pace, and I can imagine the class and imagine me speaking color theory. And if I get so excited learning color theory when it's taught from a place of science, and it's taught with passion and enthusiasm, and even a little bit of humor, and that gets me all excited. Why wouldn't that excite the industry? So I kind of got to the point where, fuck it, I am just going to build this online class, this webinar. I'm going to launch it, and if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. And just about everybody in the industry came. I mean, that sucker. I mean, I was doing them,
Yeah.
once a week for years and years and years,
Yeah.
live. Yeah. So yeah. So that was
That
a good
was
lesson
difficult.
too.
That was difficult saying like, oh, can you be, yeah, you can buy this class for hundreds of dollars, but you have to be here all 8 hours because it's live only. There is no replay. That was tough. And we made it work though. And I did it twice. So
Yeah.
if someone had ever planted a seed of doubt in your mind, they were so far off base because people will make the sacrifice when it's worth the price, you know?
Yes. a hundred
So
percent.
without telling
Yeah.
me who it was, that person who told you no, are they in this industry?
Yes.
Are they as big of a name as Teryn Darling and GirlzInk?
Maybe at one point in their career.
There you go. So they slipped through their fingers because they didn't adapt. And you
Mm.
were forward thinking, and that person couldn't see the vision.
Yeah. I think you nailed it because I've always been forward thinking. And I think that was a good lesson personally for me is, and for everybody listening to this podcast, is it doesn't matter if people are telling you no left and right about a project or a dream or a business or anything that you want to do or launch or pursue. It can be your parents, it can be your family, it can be your closest colleagues. It doesn't matter. If you can't stop thinking about it, then you're meant to do it. And you just got to ignore the no's and you got to do it. You just have to do it.
What is one thing that you failed at in business that nobody knows about?
Ooh, what's the one thing I failed at? Hmm, man, think about that. Well, it's a good thing
Everybody
that I have.
sees,
It's a good thing that
everybody,
I have to think about that,
yeah,
right?
it is.
It is a good
But
thing that I have.
everybody sees the things that you won at, and that's great for you. But I'm still here in my 6x9 room with one bed, praying for one client a week, and it feels like everything I try fails. What's one thing that I can relate to with your journey?
I don't think I've had one big failure, right? But I've had lots, probably thousands of small to moderate failures on the way to something big that it did end up finally succeeding. So I think my failures, there are these small to moderate failures that happen along the way. One was like launching my academy. My academy, because now the color theory course, it's on an academy, and you can record everything now and put it on an academy. But launching that at first, I chose the wrong platform at first, cost me a lot of money. Filming the procedures. I went through three videographers
Oh,
and
shoot,
couldn't get,
that's
yeah,
expensive.
that was a lot of money. Couldn't get the quality of video that I wanted. So a lot of mistakes, like a lot of mistakes like that. Trusting people. I've made a lot of mistakes trusting people, uh, taking people for their word, not doing contracts.
What was the worst? And you don't have to say who it is, please, but what was the worst like breakup you had in business? And what did you learn from that? Because I feel like that's such a common thing. Everybody goes into business with their sister or their best friend. They're going to share a lease. It never works out, or they
Yeah.
get into a partnership and there's no contract. It's always some drama. What's the number one thing you learned from your worst business breakup?
Um, I haven't really had, I did have a business breakup.
Real quick, before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about today's sponsor, who is our everyday sponsor, our total hero. Brow Sister PMU Products is our go-to place for all things permanent makeup, home to world famous pink gel, secondary anesthetic, and also to the beloved prilocaine lidocaine combination of pink cream, which is an amazing primary numbing, so that your clients can feel just as good as you make them look.
Early on in my career. Um, and that stemmed out of, I think, jealousy. I can
Common.
still, mhm. And since then, I haven't had any business breakups. I have not. I do a lot with Mary Richardson, with, Will Anthony and Monica Vani, Clarissa Stefan, a lot of people. And I haven't had any business breakups. I mean, I really haven't. I've been really, really lucky, but I am really selective. But that one business breakup that happened early on, we were close for a lot of years. But I was more, I guess she referred to me as being aggressive.
Oh,
And I didn't really understand that, Victoria, because I've never thought of myself as aggressive. I've never had anybody, use that adjective with me. But I was a go-getter. I was a go-getter, and I wanted to make things happen. And I was always testing the waters and whatnot. And I started my career started blossoming, if you will.
yeah.
And that that bothered her. It bothered her a lot. It got to the point where I would create like a class or something, and I would show her, and I would get the comments like, "Well, I should have thought of that."
Uh,
Yeah, it was. So it ended up being unhealthy and ended up being toxic. And I may have stayed in the relationship, but it was kind of like Kat really was one that saying this has gotten really unhealthy, Teryn,
yeah.
and you have to look at this as unhealthy. It's unhealthy, and because sometimes it's hard to leave a long-term relationship or business relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so that was it. And and what did I learn from it? I guess people are unpredictable. I guess people can change.
Jealousy can either propel you to like compete and be your best self, or it can really just create bitterness. And once that turns sour, you're really not coming back from that, because I'm not going to be less because you're upset, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was doing. That's what Kat saw with me, that I was downsizing and being less, because I didn't want to offend. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but yet inside of me, I was just dying. I was
Yeah.
just dying to spread my wings and go explore the industry and just see what I was capable of.
She chose
And
the wrong word. Aggressive is the wrong word. I would use either driven or ambitious.
yeah, and that was probably much more accurate, but that wasn't the word chosen. It was aggressive, you
Yeah.
know. But she would, but
She was
there was
coming from her own place of
yes,
disruption.
yes, 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 and there was hostility. She was feeling hostility towards me by this point, and so yeah, so and it was
By the
hurtful.
way, how did I know it was, because everyone's first business breakup is